Thanks to the organizers for inviting me here. Since I came out of prison in last October, in October 2009, many people, politicians, ordinary people, journalists, they've asked me, so what should we do about Iran? And that, of course, is the $1 million question, or even more, maybe, with the inflation. They always pose the question in a way that you're watching a Die Hard film or a Rambo film, and you're thinking that, so when is Bruce Willis is coming to save Iran, or when Sylvester Stallone is? So my answer is always that Iran is not an action film. Iran is more like a European black and white subtitle film that you have to really absorb, and you have to go through a process. So with that in mind, I'm going to talk about certain things that are uniquely Iranian here. And before that, I'm going to say ditto to most of the things that have been said about other authoritarian governments. Iranian government is learning from China. Of course, Hugo Chavez is Ahmadinejad's best friend now, and he loves the Belarusians, and Mahathir Mohamad is also a hero in Iran. So one thing that we have to know about Iran is that the regime in Iran is much weaker than most people outside of Iran think it is. But also, the other thing that we have to know about the policies towards Iran is that most of it is wrong and counterproductive in a sense. Last week, the Iranian government celebrated the 31st anniversary of the Iranian Revolution. It was really disappointing to see that the only reaction the American government gave to narrowing the internet bandwidth, shutting down many social networking sites, imprisoning more than 65 journalists, was just condemning Ahmadinejad's bellicose rhetoric about the nuclear program, which is most probably a lie that Iran can enrich 20% uranium. Iran is bullying the international community through its nuclear program. They are distracting the international community with its nuclear program by diverting the attention from the internal repression. And I think that the international community, especially Western democracies, they are missing a great opportunity in investing in the future of Iran and their own future relationship with Iran. Not only, for altruistic reasons, but also for very pragmatic reasons, which can be better commerce and better investments in the future of Iran. Iranian people are, at the moment, I actually talked to some of my Iranian co-citizens here, and they are very suspicious that there is a deal going on between the United States and Iran about the security in Iraq, in Afghanistan, and that's why President Obama and Secretary of State Hillary Clinton does not say anything about the human rights situation in Iran. Or if they say something, it's very mild or very reactive. It's not really a proactive policy. What is happening in Iran is that the regime is becoming more paranoid every day. Why? Because the gap between the elite who always believed in the democratic values, in human rights, in freedom of expression, the gap is narrowing between the elite and the masses of people, especially young people. Young people of Iran, they are learning more about democratic values, they are learning more about human rights and freedom of expression. And how that happened? It happened through education, which is a result of the Iranian government opening different universities all around Iran, but also because of the free flow of information which happened in Iran because of the internet and satellite television. So if we are talking about Iranian democracy as a process, we can see that the internet and satellite technology is really helping the Iranian democratic process. And this democratic process is going to bear fruits very soon. I'm not saying that this very soon will be in 6 months' time, maybe not in 2 years, maybe not in 5 years, but it will be very soon in the context of Iranian history. It may be 10 years, 15 years, who knows. But it is a process that should be allowed and should be encouraged by the international community, Western governments, and international technology groups, as well as media organizations. So when the Iranian government sees this democratic process being very successful and this gap between the elite and the masses narrowing, what it does whatever a paranoid government does all around the world. As I said, more than 65 journalists and bloggers as well as writers, they are in jail in Iran now. Before any demonstration, the internet bandwidth is narrowed. Many social networking websites like Twitter and Facebook, they are shut down. They're censored. They have passed cybercrime laws and digital crime laws that makes even the slightest comment or an funniest joke which is sent through text as a crime. So someone technically can be put in jail for 5 or 6 years because of an unfunny joke that he or she has sent through SMS. And so I have a very concrete proposal for people who are saying that what kind of sanctions and what should we do about Iran. I think that the international community, especially the American government with all its resources, should really help Iranian to gain free flow of information. And I have very specific suggestions. They should create filter busters that young Iranians can circumvent the internet and cyber obstacles. They should, I was very excited about what our friend from Frontline said about the protecting human rights activists. They should develop that and distribute those kind of softwares among Iranians. Even it can be done surreptitiously, or it has to be done surreptitiously because the Iranian government does not allow illegal softwares to be distributed in Iran. And also, one investment that can be made, and it can really bear very exciting fruits, is to allow Iranians to have a connection to the internet via satellite. Most Iranian households now, not most, but many of them, at least 50% of Iranian households, I've seen nomads who have satellite dishes, and they're connected to satellite dishes, and they receive foreign broadcast, not foreign broadcast, but broadcasting Persians transmitted from outside through satellite. Iranian people, if they are allowed to have internet access via satellite, that will be a big leap in terms of Iranian democratic movement now. But also, I think the international community should pass certain laws in terms of Iranian government's ability to use satellite technology and digital technology on the basis of reciprocity. Because at the moment, the Iranian government jams the transmission by European and American satellites with impunity. The transmission of Voice of America Persian, BBC Persian are jammed by the Iranian government. And what the satellite dish owners do, they just take off those channels off their channels, off their satellite, because of two reasons. First of all, they don't want the hassle of being jammed, but also because they are carrying Iranian channels, Iranian government channels on their satellites. So, in effect, what they're doing is that they're siding with the oppressor and they're punishing the oppressed. And among all these laws, all these UN resolutions that are passed right now, I think these laws regarding digital, creating digital censorship and jamming satellite transmission is missing. And that can be on a very, very simple idea of reciprocity, that if you do this, you cannot. If you are jamming the satellite transmission, you cannot, you should not be able to use satellite technology. And yeah, I think I'm less than 5 minutes.